I don't know how exactly this ends. I don't think the Tigers can continue trotting him out there for 3 more seasons when, he's been among the worst, if not the very worst qualifying hitters in baseball the past 2 years. I don't see any drastic move happening, in season this year, but I think his playing time could continue to dwindle. We're seeing him hit in the bottom third of the order now. And I think this offseason, assuming, nothing changes, the Tigers could have, um, uh, in a way, a tough decision to make. In a way, you could also argue it's pretty obvious that maybe they need to eat this money and find a better solution if they want to be competitive in the near future, because it's just not working with Javier Baez.
Welcome into another edition of On the Record, where we're previewing this upcoming series for the Arizona Diamondbacks. As always, the Diamondbacks are taking on the Detroit Tigers this weekend at Chase Field. And here to preview the series with us today is Cody Stavenhagen of The Athletic. Cody, thanks for hopping on today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to join.
So Cody, this Detroit Tigers team coming in 21-22, almost the exact same record as the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are 21-23. It seemed like the Tigers really started off the season well, but they have not played great baseball lately. As far as I can tell, they've lost 9 of their last 12 games. I believe this is the first time that they've been below 500 this season after losing a series to the Miami Marlins. It seems from the outside, Cody, that the Tigers starting pitching, their bullpen have both been really good, but that there just hasn't really been much offense to speak of.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to sum it up. And maybe a little bit like the Diamondbacks, it's been tough to know exactly what to make of this team. They've had some days where they've played really competitive baseball. You can see some of the young talent. You can feel optimistic about what's going on in the organization. But for, I think, a team that was really looking to take a step forward this year, it still feels like there's too many days where they're not competitive, especially at the plate. Starting pitching really has been terrific. The bullpen has regressed a little bit as of late, but has really been a strength of this team for the bulk of the year so far. It's a matter of getting run production, and that has been a challenge. You can look up and down the lineup and see a lot of OPSs below 600, especially when you get to the 6, 7, 8, 9 hitters. There has been a real lack of production. So that's kind of the simplest crux with the Tigers right now.
Looking at the starting pitching matchups for this series, we have Tarik Skubal going against Ryan Nelson tonight. We have Jack Flaherty against Zach Gallen on Saturday, Matt Manning, Jordan Montgomery on Sunday. I'll start with Tarik Skubal here, Cody. Is he the best left-handed pitcher in baseball right now?
Yeah, I don't think that's an exaggeration at all. And I think, just for me, it's been good to see him kind of get his national due to really arrive on the national radar. I think people in Detroit have known for the past 2, 3+ years that he is a legit guy. The injuries have set him back a little bit, but now that he is healthy, now that he has really refined his arsenal, you are seeing what people here knew a long time, that Tarik Skubal can be one of the best pitchers in the game. He has been absolutely stellar. He's fun to watch, but he also has a way of making pitching look easy, these are kind of the things you hear about the best pitchers in the game. He's really arrived at a pretty amazing consistency dating back to last July. It seems like every time out, he's going deep in games. He is keeping opposing hitters off balance. He's able to generate strikeouts and a ton of weak contact. He's become a little bit more of a ground ball pitcher as the years have gone on, but he can attack you with a variety of weapons, starting with the fastball, which is a great pitch for him that he can play with up in the zone. But his changeup has really arrived as one of the best changeups in baseball. Has a crazy whiff rate, and then he's got a slider and curve he can mix in when needed. Skubal's the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, a 2.02 ERA is 0.86 whip. I mean, they kind of look like video game numbers. Skubal is, I believe, a native of Kingman, or at least he went to Kingman Academy in Arizona. Do you think, I don't think he started at Chase Field before. Do you think this series might have some special significance for him because of that?
That's actually a really good question. I mean, I think just being in his home state, I'm sure he will have a lot of friends and family around. Pitching in Detroit, it's a little far off. So this will probably be a little bit of a different environment for him. I mean, even a guy who made his debut during the COVID season. He probably didn't have that grand debut with friends and family all around. So I bet it will be a little bit of a special start. I'm not sure how much, if any, of a D-backs fan he was growing up, but I think just the very idea of being close to home will be important for him.
The Diamondbacks technically drafted him in the 29th
That's right.
round
That's
in
right. Yeah.
2017. You don't see 29th round picks signed very often, so no huge surprise there. But I'm excited to watch Tarik Skubal pitch. He's certainly one of the best in the league. Jack Flaherty, I mentioned starting on Saturday. Maybe he's not Tarik Skubal out there, but he's been pretty darn good for the Tigers this year. Kind of an under the radar offseason signing, not someone I necessarily expected too much from it at this stage in his career. It seemed like he blossomed early with the Cardinals and has had a hard time finding his way since then. What have you seen from Flaherty that's kind of allowed him to turn things around?
Yeah, Flaherty's definitely been a pleasant surprise. He was kind of the one guy the Tigers signed this offseason that I didn't quite understand. It had been 3-4 years since he had really been good. But the Tigers identified some things, some small mechanical tweaks, some biomechanical type things that they thought could help him. And sure enough, that has been the case. We've seen an uptick in his fastball velocity. I think in general, his command has been a lot better than it was the previous years. And you're reminded that Jack Flaherty was once a really good pitcher in this league, is showing signs of being a really good pitcher in this league again. I think he's leading the AL in Ks per nine, or at least he's right up there. He's missing a ton of bats. He's had a couple starts where things did not go great for him, but he's also had some starts where he has been really dominant. I think the last 3 or 4 times out, especially, he's been pretty locked in. So a huge reason why the Tigers feel so confident in their rotation is getting more out of guys like Jack Flaherty.
63 strikeouts to 6 walks. I mean, yeah, these numbers
Yeah.
are insane. This is not what I exactly expected from Jack Flaherty coming into the year. He has a 3.88 ERA, but the peripheral numbers suggest that he's really been a whole lot better than that. Switching gears over to the offense, Cody, I have to ask about Javier Baez because this man has an OPS well under 500. His defensive metrics appear to have slipped. I think he's at -5 outs above average already, just about a quarter of the way through the season. 6 years, $140 million. I think there's still 3 years on that deal after this one. Are the Tigers getting close to letting him walk, to trying to send him down? Are there any kind of big moves in the near future, do you think?
Yeah, it's a great and important question because it's obviously a really bad situation. I think the Tigers have tried pretty much everything. There were some hopes, coming into the season, maybe they could get a little more out of Javi. I don't think anyone was expecting a return to 2018, 2019 Javi Baez, but he'd mentioned some back discomfort, and maybe if that was cleared up, and maybe he was gonna ditch the leg kick in his swing and shorten up a little bit. Well, that hasn't really been the case. He still uses a leg kick like 1 out of every 2 swings. There's kind of some odd inconsistency there if you pay attention. So there's some Javi being Javi things, but the production that once made him a stellar player has really completely dried up. I don't know how exactly this ends. I don't think the Tigers can continue trotting him out there for 3 more seasons when, he's been among the worst, if not the very worst qualifying hitters in baseball the past 2 years. I don't see any drastic move happening, in season this year, but I think his playing time could continue to dwindle. We're seeing him hit in the bottom third of the order now. And I think this offseason, assuming, nothing changes, the Tigers could have, in a way, a tough decision to make. In a way, you could also argue it's pretty obvious that maybe they need to eat this money and find a better solution if they want to be competitive in the near future, because it's just not working with Javi Baez.
They had plenty of patience with Miguel Cabrera toward the end of his career, but I imagine that's a that's a bit of a different situation.
A little different, being Miguel was a franchise icon, and also for the bulk of those years, the Tigers weren't realistically a competitive team. If they are
Sure.
trying to take a step forward and trying to win games, I don't think they can just kind of string this one with honestly what's been an offensive black hole at shortstop.
Tigers have a number of former Diamondbacks players, at least in the organization, that I find kind of interesting. Andrew Chafin is in the bullpen. Shelby Miller is in the bullpen as well, although I know he's hurt right now. They also have Buddy Kennedy in the organization, who was a prospect coming up through the D-back system. And maybe the most important name here is Tyler Holton, who
Yeah.
D-backs fans, I'm not even sure all that familiar with. Tyler Holton pitched a handful of innings out of the D-backs bullpen in 2022. Came into the 2023 season. The D-backs decided to designate him for assignment in February of last year. He winds up catching on with the Tigers and had a 2.11 ERA and a sub 0.9 whip last season. He's come back this year and also been pretty good, a 3.43 ERA, a whip that's under 0.8 this season so far. What is going on with Tyler Holton? How did the Diamondbacks miss so big in this situation?
Yeah, it's a great question. And kudos to Scott Harris, the Tigers president of baseball ops, for recognizing this one and going out and claiming Holton. When the Tigers acquired him, I don't think anyone thought much of it. Come last spring training, I didn't really think Holton was a viable candidate to make the roster. He ends up being probably their most important reliever, throwing just a ton of innings out of the bullpen. Yeah, I don't know. He generally hits his spots. He's got a sinker that really plays. He can handle. He's a lefty who dominates left-handed hitters, but handles righties really well too. So he's been able to be used in a variety of roles. He's had a couple outings this year that haven't gone quite as well. I think he was just kind of losing the feel with the command, but looked a lot better, I think, his last time out. So Holton, yeah, I mean, I think that's the $1 million question for a lot of cases in baseball. How does one team give up on a guy and another team sees something that they completely unlock? I don't know exactly what the secret was with Holton, but I can tell you he's been really good since he's come over to the Tigers.
Last thing for you, Cody. The Tigers contending this season seems maybe a little bit far-fetched. They're certainly in the mix. They're not buried or anything in the wild card race too much at this point. But the American League is obviously very competitive. It seems like a bit of an uphill battle for them. If the Tigers are going to get back to the playoffs and, within the next 2-3 seasons, whatever it is, what does that look like? What do you think has to happen?
They have to hit, number one. But I think yeah, it's a lot about the young hitters in this lineup. Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, Spencer Torkelson, some guys who've had a taste of success at the major league level. Especially Torkelson. Can he, are you looking at an average or below first baseman, or are you looking at a franchise cornerstone? Riley Green has shown signs of being maybe the most underrated young hitter in the game. Doesn't necessarily get the national attention as some others like a Corbin Carroll, but his numbers have been really good when he's been healthy over the past 2 seasons. Can he stay healthy? Can he kind of take things to an all-star level? Kerry Carpenter, is this a platoon lefty with some power, or is this a guy you can count on to man the corner outfield spots for years to come? It's those guys, and it's developing some other pieces as well. Colt Keith, a rookie at second base, Jace Young in the minor leagues. Do you actually have a strong homegrown core, or do you have Riley Green and some other spare parts? I think the Tigers want to make this done in more of a homegrown manner, maybe add a piece or two. But I think there's still kind of too many questions still out on what the Tigers actually have to be a playoff team. They're going to need a little bit more out of, I think, all the names I just mentioned. It seems like they've figured out some things pitching-wise, not just with the players they have. They're showing a knack for developing pitchers, acquiring free agents like Flaherty, like Michael Lorenzen last year, and getting more out of them. It's a question of how they're going to produce runs, not just this year, but in the years ahead.
Well, D-backs Tigers this weekend should be an interesting series. See what happens. Cody, thanks again for hopping on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed it.